Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into a massive universal question. Honestly, one that pretty much every single human being has grappled with at some point. Why do good people face so much hardship in life? It's this wild paradox, right? It causes so much spiritual confusion. You might look at someone who is just incredibly devout, super kind, genuinely righteous, and yet their life is just a non-stop sequence of struggles. Meanwhile, folks who act completely recklessly seem to just breeze right through life. Well, today we are going to completely dismantle how you view these hardships. We're going to look directly at source texts and historical accounts that will literally reframe your entire understanding of affliction.
You know, when you're really trying your best to do good, when you're just trying to be a decent person, but you still get hit with relentless trials, it's a deeply human instinct to wonder if you've done something terribly wrong. You start second-guessing everything, asking yourself, wait, is God angrily punishing me? It is so incredibly easy to interpret a sudden loss, a chronic illness, or just a really bad streak of luck as this flashing sign of divine anger. But, as we're going to see today, that specific assumption, it's actually completely backwards.
Because the source material completely shatters that instinct. We have this direct, mind-blowing insight regarding the Day of Judgment that reveals suffering is actually a hidden goldmine of divine reward. Just think about the sheer magnitude of this statement. The people who lived lives of perfect health, wealth, and ease, the people of wellness, they're going to look at the staggering, unimaginable rewards handed out to those who suffered in this world. And their reaction, it won't just be, oh, I wish I had that. The text literally says they would wish their own bodies had been cut to pieces with scissors during their worldly life just to access a fraction of that reward. No way, right? It immediately shifts how we see affliction, from a dark state of punishment to an incredibly elevated status.
Part 1, Ibn Sirin's 4-month trial. Let's look at how this actually plays out. To see how this works in practice, there's this fascinating historical anchor story about a legendary early scholar named Ibn Sirin. Now, for a man like him, his absolute ultimate joy in life was his voluntary night prayer, the Qiyam al-Layl. But the texts note that for 4 straight months, he was completely unable to perform it. He hit this severe, agonizing spiritual drought. And notice, he wasn't struck by a physical disease or some massive loss of wealth. His trial was that he was blocked from his spiritual routine. For an entire season, month after month, this subtle spiritual struggle continued. He felt the profound, heavy weight of this block until he finally figured out exactly why it was happening.
And here is the crazy part. His massive spiritual block was caused by a single, seemingly minor slip of the tongue. He later realized, and I quote, "I know the sin for which I was denied the night prayer. I once called a man bankrupt." He insulted someone in a fleeting moment of frustration, just one word, and the consequence wasn't lightning striking him from the sky. It was a highly calibrated spiritual trial specifically meant to purify him of that exact misstep.
This contrast perfectly explains why we feel so blindsided by our own problems today. The early righteous, folks like Ibn Sirin, they were so meticulous with their actions that their sins were incredibly few. Because their slate was basically spotless, when a trial hit them, they could trace it back to the exact mistake. But us today, we are so overwhelmed by a constant daily stream of sins. A harsh word here, a broken promise there. So when a trial hits us, we have absolutely no idea where it's coming from. We just feel completely lost in the storm.
So moving on to part 2, the secret behind emotional pain.
So what about the trials that aren't these grand historical events or major life catastrophes? What about just everyday emotional struggles? The subtle pains that don't make the headlines of your life, but still drag you down. We all know that heavy feeling in the chest on, say, a random Tuesday morning. You wake up, nothing is specifically wrong, but you feel this deep, unexplainable sadness or just a sudden heavy wave of fatigue. You probably brush it off or even get frustrated with yourself. But what if I told you that even this seemingly random emotional dip has a profound, targeted spiritual purpose?
The source texts reveal a truly fascinating reality. Every single one of these painful experiences acts as a direct erasure for your mistakes. Whether it's severe physical illness, general physical exhaustion, unexplainable sadness, which, by the way, the texts specifically highlight, or just the annoying everyday setbacks you face. None of it is wasted, not a single drop. Every ounce of exhaustion and every pang of grief is systematically working in the background to expiate, to basically erase your shortcomings.
This completely reframes our bad days. There's a really powerful story in the source material about Abu Bakr, the closest companion to the Prophet. When a verse was revealed stating that anyone who does a bad deed will be recompensed for it, Abu Bakr understandably panicked. He thought,
How can anyone succeed if we're punished for every single mistake? But the prophet comforted him. He explained that the exhaustion, the sadness, the daily distress we feel in this life, that is the recompense. They aren't acts of divine vengeance meant to destroy you. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. They are acts of divine mercy, silently wiping your slate clean right here so you don't have to face the consequences later.
Which brings us to part 3, prophetic tears and divine mercy.
To really understand the ultimate example of suffering, we have to look to the Prophet Muhammad himself. A lot of people have this misconception that if you are truly righteous or truly patient, you just accept trials with a stoic, stone-cold face. But the text gives us this heartbreaking, yet deeply enlightening narrative. The prophet held his young grandson as the child was drawing his final breaths. Witnessing this, the prophet's eyes filled with tears and he wept openly. Now this actually shocked some of the companions around him. They mistakenly thought that true faith and patience meant showing absolutely zero emotion, that crying was somehow a complaint against the divine will. So they actually asked him, "What is this?"
And the prophet's response redefines patience entirely. He said, "This is a mercy Allah placed in the hearts of His servants, and Allah only has mercy on the merciful." The very act of crying, the very feeling of sorrow and heartbreak during an affliction, is itself a highly rewarded act of mercy. You are allowed to be human, and during a trial doesn't mean you have to be some heartless, emotionless robot. The sadness you feel is a testament to your humanity. True patience just lies in not speaking against the divine decree, even while your tears are flowing.
Finally, part 4, arriving with 0 sins.
So where does all this lead us? All this pain, this required patience, this daily exhaustion, and silent divine purification. Well, the trials you might currently despise are actually working as your absolute greatest spiritual allies. They are a divine mechanism, constantly working relentlessly in the background to clear your debts. Every time you show patience through a headache, a financial hit, or a devastating emotional blow, a heavy burden is literally lifted off your spiritual ledger. The ultimate goal? To ensure you meet God without the crushing weight of a lifetime of mistakes.
The ultimate destination is 0. The source text explicitly states that a person will continue to be tested with afflictions in themselves, in their children, and their wealth until they walk upon the earth and eventually meet God with exactly 0 sins. 0. That is the exact balance a person can have when meeting God, purely because their worldly trials, met with patience, erase them all completely. It's truly incredible.
I want to leave you with this final thought to completely change your view on affliction. If every single hardship, from the tiny sting of an insult to a monumental life loss, is secretly elevating your status and erasing your faults, how are you going to choose to face your very next trial? Will you see it as a punishment or as a profound, albeit painful, purification? Think about that. If this explainer shifted your perspective and helped to understand the mystery of why the righteous are tested, please follow and subscribe for more content just like this. We will see you in the next explainer.